Helen True reporting, or joining me from our Westminster studio is the Conservative MP for Rochester and Stroud, Mark Reckless. Mr Reckless, let's pick up on the last point Helen made there. The NHS is apparently opposing the government changes because it believes they'll cost it more in the long run. Do you agree that's a possibility?
I don't think that's likely. I mean, I think the reason we're bringing in these changes is one, to reduce the amount of taxpayers' money spent on legal aid. But also, I mean, what we're seeing here is basically the taxpayer suing the taxpayer, because if the NHS has to pay out, again, that's taxpayers' funds, and we really want to see this money spent on treating patients.
But are you sure then that the changes you make will mean that there is still an avenue of justice for the patients who suffer clinical negligence?
Yes, I do. I mean, I think the difference between the no-win, no-fee, I think solicitors will tend to take what appear to be good, clear cases. I think the changes will mean that some cases that are perhaps less strong probably won't go to court in the way they are at the moment. That will save money, but also, as you said on your clip, I think most people aren't really looking for a payout. They want to understand what's happened. They want to know that lessons have been learnt, and I think that can be done much better through a proper complaints process than by going to court.
Okay, well, you said it's going to save money, but as we heard in Helen's report, many no-win, no-fee solicitors will only take on a case that they think is going to win, a clear-cut case, as you said, but also those cases cost more, they take longer in court, and when they do settle, if it's successful, the lawyer takes a greater amount of money from the NHS.
I mean, contributors to your clip just now, there were two different lines, which both of them can't be true. And one was that these reforms were going to stop people being able to take cases, and the other was it wasn't making any difference to the cases, but they'd be more expensive. I think it will reduce the number of cases, because I think the no-win, no-fee lawyers will only tend to take cases that do appear clearly strong cases, and I think some of the more marginal cases probably won't go to court. But what I would like to see is people having a complaint system that works. Because
aren't you concerned, though? I mean, not every case is clear-cut, especially in medical situations. Aren't you concerned about all those people who have no avenue, have no option now?
I am concerned, but the priority for NHS money has to be on treating patients, and seeing this rise year by year in the amount of money, that money being spent on litigation, can't be in anyone's interest. So if we can reduce that through these reforms, and try and also improve the complaints procedure, so it's less defensive, the NHS is perhaps a bit less worried about admitting things that might lead to legal liability in court, that should allow the NHS to learn lessons more easily when things have gone wrong, but also I think give better satisfaction to many of the people who just want to understand what happened and know that the NHS is learning the right lessons from that.
Let's bring in your Conservative colleague Laura Sansett. Laura, are you concerned that an increase in no-win, no-fee legal cases will actually encourage this compensation culture that your Prime Minister wants to stop?
No, I don't think so, and I think there's something interesting about the legal aid aspect of clinical negligence, is it's only really used in about 18% of all cases. So it's actually quite a small number of clinical negligence cases that refer to legal aid. I think that what we've got here is, in some ways, we've got no-win, no-fee lawyers doubling their receipts of fees over the last 10 years, which has to be wrong. So we've got to look at that as well. But I think it's absolutely crucial that we start to make public services respond much, much more effectively to those people that they serve.
Well, let's bring in Jill Mitchell, who of course works for the NHS. Is it possible, Jill, that the problem here is the standard of care in our hospitals?
I think obviously patient safety has to come first. But what we seem to have here is a rather inequitable system, and those were tragic cases of people who were saying that they had no choice but to go to the no-win, no-fee lawyers. I would urge the government to think again about removing the funding for medical compensation from the legal aid system. No one seems to be listening to the NHS at the moment, not least the government. They know what they're talking about. And I've heard a statistic that actually our claims are amongst the highest in the world.
I know Laura wants to come in, but let's go back to Mark Reckless in the studio. What do you make of what Jill Mitchell was just saying, Mark?
Well, I think we want to reform the NHS because we want to make it better. I mean, that's the reason. We can't allow the NHS to just sit still with expanding life expectancy and all these new treatments. We need to put the family doctors in charge, and we need to stop all this money going on legal claims. So that's why we're bringing in the reforms, stopping the legal aid for clinical negligence in the NHS, but also we're stopping the referral fees for solicitors, which is one of the other areas
It is another area, Mr.
claims.
Reckless, that I'm afraid we just don't have time to go into that. It's obviously a big subject, but thank you very much indeed for joining us